Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Good afternoon and welcome to Tennessee This Week. We're joined by Craig Griffith, our healthcare analyst and also a political contributor, and Michael Covington, our industrial analyst, also a political contributor as well. And that's how we're going to get into all these things politics. Let's start with the Tennessee House. They opened the doors, hit the gavel on the 9th, Tuesday the 9th. Since then, I don't know what they really got done significantly, but I know there's been a lot of arguments. I want to get your take on these stricter rules, half the gallery now available to the public, half for the media and for guests. Also, the other rules of when you talk out of order, there's going to be greater punishments. And I think we actually witnessed that this past week as well. Greg, we'll start with you.
Well, it certainly is a knee-jerk reaction, I think, to the events that happened in the last legislative session. And I don't know if it's going to make decorum any better in the House than it was then. People are going to speak up. People will try to get the golden ticket where they can sit in the gallery and watch the sessions. That'll be a hot ticket, probably available on Vivid Seats at a higher price than a UT football game.
Are we going to bring in the whole Ticketmaster issue now?
Yeah. I don't know what they're accomplishing. I think they should move ahead. And it was kind of interesting. They did away with holding up signs, but then Representative Zachary held up his report on number of minutes that people were speaking. And it seemed to be a great surprise to him that mostly Democrats were speaking. That's because the majority, Republican supermajority, had already not locked down all the issues and were ready to vote. So it's, spinning their wheels, wasting a lot of time that could be used to govern.
Okay, Michael.
Well, the Republican supermajority kind of needs to grow into being in that responsible role. The Democrats are feeling as though they're being left out, and I can kind of understand that. There was the acting out of the three individuals from the last general session. The General Assembly should move on from that. They need to be mature and move on from that. They need to reach out to the super minority and allow them to feel as though they are part of the legislative process. I still favor the supermajority. I like what they are potentially able to do, but they're simply not getting it done because they're spending too much time acting like they are big brother and that the Democratic superminority is their little brother. And we all know how that goes. If we're playing basketball, if we're playing football, the big brother is going to win and he's going to mock the little brother. That's a part of being a big brother. But we're beyond that. We're adults. They have to govern themselves as though they represent the people, not power.
What about the part of it where they said, hey, if you're going to speak out of order, or just the one example that we already have, I think it was Justin Jones, Representative Justin Jones, saying that the speaker, Sexton, was drunk with power. And then immediately someone said, hey, we're not going to talk like that. And then I took forever to look at the rules. Is that good or bad to stop with the name calling and things like that?
It's childish. I've maintained that Justin Pearson and Justin Jones were hucksters. They orchestrated something to get attention. They got the attention. Now it's time to govern. Now it's time to work with the supermajority, and they need to be more artful. They need to use more guile. This name calling, it's not going to accomplish anything for their positions. The supermajority is bound to listen to them. And if they would simply approach them as mature adults, I think they could get something done.
Craig?
Well, we could use a large dose of more civility in all our democratic processes. The name calling and the vitriol is rising to exponential levels, and we could all stop doing that and get down to doing the job of the people, trying to help our state run better, help those that need help the most, and continue on in our path of economic development. So, let's get over, as Michael says, let's move on.
Well, here's a fight that apparently is going on between the Senate and the House, which of course Republicans control both, is they can't agree on what they want to agree on when it comes to maybe possibly not taking federal dollars for education. Give me your take on that. Where do you think that is headed as well?
Well, that's obviously running into significant headwinds in the Senate. I think one of the quotes from the Senate report regarding not taking federal education dollars was that there were less strings attached to that money than I thought. So I think, if you were going to do this, you needed to come out with a plan that showed people, what exactly it is you're trying to accomplish. And I don't think they've done that. It's, if you want to talk about communications and messaging, it's been a very poor job other than I just want to stop it. And it ran into a lot of pushback at the local level, especially in the smaller counties that depend on that money from the federal government for many programs to help the disabled and to help the low-income individuals. So, until the supermajority in the House comes together with more of a definitive reason why we need to do this, I think it's going to run into real roadblocks in the Senate.
Michael, final word there on that?
The money should be accepted from the federal government. The money should be allocated that is received from the federal government. If the legislature, the Senate, and the House, if they have a plan that they are ready to present to the citizens of Tennessee, they should prepare that plan and prepare to present it and have it accepted by the voters in Tennessee. Until they're in a position to do that, they need to let this go. They need to accept that money. They need to utilize it for every purpose that it can be utilized for, and we keep it moving.
All right. I appreciate that. Hey, we also want to talk about Larson J. announcing his run for Knox County mayor. We're going to get into that in our next segment. But as we wrap up this segment, we're going to go ahead and air or show you a story that Lori Tucker sat down and talked to him, and let that air, and then we'll get your comments after that.
Fresh off his announcement that he's running for Knox County mayor in 2026. Thank you so much for talking with us today. I have to ask you, why now?
Well, you have to start somewhere, and then those times go by fast. And of course, every process to run for office takes a long amount of time. It's really just a continuation of the work I'm doing as a county commissioner. But I'm somebody who likes to plan and prep and spend a lot of time better understanding it. And mostly this first year, I will spend a lot of time going out and listening to the community across the county. So really, the retail side of it really won't kick off for a while. But it's a great opportunity to make sure that I can get a good sense of what the people of Knox County want and how that's complementing the work that I've already been doing as a commissioner. You've been in office since 2018. How long have you been thinking about this next step? Just in the last couple of years recently, as I've been encouraged to serve on a greater level. It's not something you plan out for, but as an at-large commissioner, I've had the opportunity to work on behalf of people from Coreyton to Farragut, from Halls to South Knoxville, and everywhere in between. And so really, when I look at the body of work that I've been proud of and accomplished, and the things that are still in the works, my goal is really to focus on what is Knox County going to look like 20 or 40 years from now, and how can I serve in a capacity that might help build that opportunity for the future. We want to talk about 2007, and that really was a transformative time in your life. You almost died. Yeah, I shouldn't be with you today, and had a near-fatal accident that fundamentally changed my life. I often say that almost dying is the best thing that ever happened to me, because it shifted my priorities from success. I was in my early 30s at the time, really from success to significance, and what are you going to do with this life? What impact are you going to make? How are you going to make it? And of course, led to the formation of Random Acts of Flowers, one of the proudest things I've ever worked on, and it's still helping so many people today, really nationwide. But it also led to more public service in a capacity of, what can I do to help people? What can I do to help solve problems? And that ultimately led to running for office, which I never imagined I would be doing, but has really been one of the greatest jobs I've ever had. All right, we'll be following you. Thank you very much.
before the flakes fall, before the plows hit the roads. The WATE 6 on your side storm team is way ahead of the winter weather, tracking the system in advance so we all know what to expect. So before the first school closes and before the snow boots are put on, trust Knoxville's most accurate weather team to keep you prepared.
For those who missed Zaxby's egg rolls the first time, these hand-rolled bundles of deliciousness are back. Just in time to take a sweet and spicy dip. Yes, you heard that right. 2 for $3 egg rolls. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
I'm Corey B. Trotz. At Team NST, we not only care about our injured clients, we also care about giving back to our community. That's why you can see our attorneys and staff volunteer on the weekends, helping those less fortunate. From handing out food to cleaning up parks and donating money to worthwhile causes, our dedicated team serves with pride. It's just the NST way of doing things. We're Nahan, Saharovich, and Trotz, champions for the injured and our community.
Don't take a chance with electrical problems. We have skilled electricians to make sure your family stays safe. Don't ignore the buzz. Call us today. When you want quality work, call Quality. After all, it's in our name. Quality Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Knoxville's top choice for local news online is WATE.com. We have stories for everyone, for everything East Tennessee. Find it at WATE.com.
Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We just watched before the break, Lori Tucker sitting down and talking to Larson Jay about his plans to run for the Knox County mayor's office, which is almost 2 years away. So jumping in pretty early. Craig, your take on that early of an announcement?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know. You know, we are only 1 month away today from voting in the primary election in Knox County. So there's a lot of elections between now and then. And it's hard to maintain that momentum over time. There was another county commissioner, Bob Thomas, who a couple of cycles ago ran for county mayor, was the first person to get out several years before. And it didn't really turn out too well for him. So I think that Jay is an excellent candidate. He believes in planning. He believes in looking at the future and seeing which direction this county needs to go to. And so I think he's making an excellent candidate. But those, I would almost say those are 3 or 4 political lifetimes between now and that election. So, you know, it's an interesting strategy, and we'll see how it works. And remember to vote in a month from now in the primary election here in Knox County.
Michael.
Well, Mr. Commissioner Jay indicated that he wanted to get out early because he wanted to make sure he had an opportunity to do 30 to 40 listening sessions. And that may be good for on air right now as he's making his announcement. But I would liken it to racers in a track meet. They're on the track. There's a stagger. And because you're out front on the back, on the outer edge of the stagger, you appear to be out in front. But the racer that's a half step faster than you is ahead of you by the time you finish the first round or the first lap. So being out in front on the stagger in a political race is not an advantage. What happens is, over time, you're forgotten about, especially if another candidate who has run successfully countywide enters the race. The moment that candidate enters the race, Larson Jay is behind them and may never catch up. The problem with getting out in front is you can't maintain the enthusiasm. Voters are not going to stay enthusiastic about you as a candidate when the election is actually 2 years away. So it serves to allow you to be out in front and be the only person that's in the media talking about running for mayor. But in the final analysis, it's a real tough road to hoe when you're trying to maintain relevance and community recognition over that period of time.
I might point out that Larson is an at-large county commissioner, so he has run countywide already.
Right.
So, but it is a lot of people think get out early, raise all the money, lock up the race. That very rarely happens. There'll be other well-qualified individuals that have support that will come out for this race. So, well, it's a long way to sustain a campaign.
Are either one of you hearing any names or people that are considering it? Running?
None that I would go on the air with, but there will be people, believe me.
Oh, yes.
So,
And I have absolutely heard of two names, and one of those names falls in that category that I described. Well known, having run successfully countywide. So we'll just have to see.
mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move. Since you talked about Larson J being all about planning, that's the other thing I wanted to hit in this block. Vance Knox making a big decision. It isn't mean it's approved, but the committee and getting the vote and kind of laying it all out. One of the parts of that was the amendment by Mayor Jacobs. Speaking of Mayor Jacobs, I think reducing square miles from 17.5 to like 14.5 to be used for residential and commercial property.
We have three priorities with this plan. Number one is to mitigate the skyrocketing housing prices, and that's not only housing prices, but also rentals. Also to preserve our open spaces and to limit sprawl. Really trying to do our best to get ahead of that. I mean, we're seeing more growth in the county, and we're going to continue to see that. We're a great place to live. People want to move here. The actual plan itself is kind of a combination. It's almost like a hub and spoke where you have town centers, but also you have development along the arteries and the highways that can accommodate that, as opposed to, kind of some of the rural roads that we have in the county. I think one thing to keep in mind is if you're to look around the country and look at places where people are leaving, and the reason they're leaving is because they're looking for someplace better. This is the place. So really, it's a huge compliment to us. And we have challenges and we have issues with what we're seeing. We don't have problems. The places where people are leaving from, that's problematic for them. So really, it's, yes, there's issues, there's challenges. For those of us that already live here, it's like, oh man, you have more traffic, you have more people here. But the reason that they're coming here is because we have such a great quality of life. And really what this is all about is preserving that quality of life, preserving that hometown charm and our wonderful open spaces, while at the same time accommodating what's happening. And we often think of people coming in from the outside, but it's also our kids and our grandkids. And we're getting to the point to where it's too expensive for young people starting out to be able to live here. We don't want that. We want our kids and our young kids to stay here.
It was a big driving force in us moving out here was the lifestyle and the view and just the peacefulness of it. There's not any infrastructure in place. There's not any adequate roads, for that kind of traffic. When you talk about something that is a development, any kind of development, whether it's housing, shopping, whatever, any kind of development that's that large.
It's terrifying to think about essentially like a North Shore or Turkey Creek being plopped in the middle of a very rural area.
There's many different groups who aren't happy on both for and against the plan, and I think sometimes in the political realm and when we're making public decisions, sometimes that means we're striking the right balance, and so that's certainly how the realtors view it.
One, how do you think that this has been handled, the Advance Knox plan, and where do you see it headed now?
I think that it's been handled fairly well, fairly efficiently, but it hasn't been tested. The public has not had an opportunity to really weigh in on it. And until we actually hear from folks who live in the rural parts of Knox County, we won't really know if it's well received or not. Conceptually, I can appreciate what they're trying to accomplish, but until the actual residents in those parts of the county have an opportunity to see what's being proposed and have a chance to weigh in, I don't think we're anywhere near the finish line.
Craig?
Well, you still have to have votes of the county commission, the city council, and the Farragut Board of Aldermen for it to become, an actual planning document. But this is the eternal struggle in Knox County that's been going on for generations, if not, it's a group of people who are more interested in keeping the rural character of some parts of the county versus the fact that, we're really lacking in land that can be developed now. Most of the city has been developed. There's nowhere to develop a lot more housing. So there's going to be this eternal battle between people that like to keep the character of their individual neighborhood or their section of the county, and those that want to, develop it more fully. And, the hope is that in this advanced Knox plan, you're able to plan for the future and direct your infrastructure development, better roads, sewers, schools, but lots of times these plans get done and you really don't see much progress on the infrastructure because it's so darn expensive. But I think there are still 1-lane railroad underpasses in Knox County. So, there's a lot that needs to be done before this plan, and whether this plan will alleviate any of the conflict between the more rural areas of the county and those that want to develop it is a real big question mark to me.
Yeah, we certainly have plenty of roads just outside of city limits. They're just 2 lanes and ditches or trees or telephone poles on both sides. So it can only handle so much traffic.
Right.
Yeah, so you're always worried about who's coming around the next bend as you're going around that bend as well. All right, Michael and Craig, thank you. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with one more segment of Tennessee This Week.